There was once a time, not so long ago in the sweep of history, when young men were carried far from their homes, into jungles, islands, and mountains where danger was always near. They were soldiers in the Japanese army during World War II, and though they were trained to fight, march, and obey, one of the hardest lessons they had to learn was how to sleep. Sleep, after all, is when the body rests and the mind drifts. But in war, resting could feel like surrender, and drifting too far into dreams could mean never waking up again. So the soldiers developed strange, cautious ways of closing their eyes, half in the world of sleep, half in the world of war. A night in the jungle. Imagine a small squad huddled in the thick jungle of a Pacific island. The trees stretched tall above them, their roots crawling across the ground like snakes. Insects hummed. The air was wet, sticky, heavy with the smell of mud and gunpowder. Somewhere far away, artillery echoed like a slow heartbeat of the earth. The men sat in a rough circle. Their rifles were never more than an arm's length away, leaning against packs or lying on the damp soil. They didn't take off their boots. They didn't fold their uniforms neatly. Every button, every strap stayed in place, ready for them to move at a second's notice. When it came time to rest, they didn't all sleep at once. That would be foolish. Instead, they set watches. 2 men would stay awake, peering into the dark, straining their ears for the crunch of footsteps or the crack of a twig. The others would lower themselves onto the ground, but not flat like in peacetime beds. They curled on their sides, helmets still on, sometimes even resting against a tree so they wouldn't drift too deep into slumber. They called it sleeping with half a body, because only half of them truly rested. The other half was still tense, listening, alert. The art of light. Sleeping back home, many of these men had once been farmers, clerks, students. They knew what it was to lie under warm futons, drifting into deep, heavy dreams. But in the field, such luxury was gone. Instead, they practiced light sleeping. Their minds trained themselves to wake at the slightest disturbance, the chirp of a bird stopping too suddenly, the rustle of leaves, the distant clank of metal. It wasn't restful in the way real sleep should be, but it was survival. Sometimes they even joked about it. One soldier, barely 18, whispered to his friend, "I think I dream with my ears open." The others chuckled softly, careful not to be too loud. It was their way of making peace with the strange new rhythm of their lives. Digging their beds. In many places, the soldiers dug holes or shallow foxholes to sleep in. These holes weren't comfortable. Roots jabbed into their backs. Rainwater pooled at the bottom. Mosquitoes found them easily. But a soldier lying in a hole was harder to spot, harder to hit, harder to surprise. Some men learned to curl into those muddy shelters as if they were cradles. They would cover themselves with branches or camouflage nets. They would lie still, rifles across their chests, one finger resting near the trigger guard even in sleep. One soldier wrote in his diary, "I wake up every hour. Sometimes I do not know if I am still dreaming or already awake. My body feels heavy, but my heart beats as if I am running." The sound of silence. In the stillness of night, silence was never truly silent. For the soldiers, the quiet was a blanket stretched thin over hidden dangers. They learned to read it. If the jungle was alive with frogs and insects, things were probably safe. But if the noises stopped suddenly, if the night creatures hushed as if holding their breath, the soldiers knew something was wrong. Maybe an enemy patrol was moving nearby. Maybe a sniper had taken position. So even in half-sleep, they were always listening. Their dreams became tangled with the forest's sounds. A snapped twig might pull them violently awake, hearts pounding, hands grasping rifles before their eyes had even adjusted. Bonds in the darkness. What made these nights bearable was not just training, but also the bond between comrades. The soldiers leaned on each other, quite literally. 2 men might sit back to back, so they could keep each other upright. That way, if one dozed too deeply, the other's movements would rouse him. They whispered stories about home, about rice fields, fishing boats, or city streets full of lanterns. Some carried tiny photographs tucked in their breast pockets, and on sleepless nights, they would take them out, staring at the faces of family or sweethearts, letting those memories be a kind of lullaby. For a moment, as their eyes closed, the war faded. They could imagine the sound of waves back home, the rustle of wind through bamboo, the clatter of chopsticks at family dinners. Sleep, however fragile, felt a little safer when shared with those memories. Tricks of the mind. Over time, the soldiers developed mental tricks to help themselves sleep lightly but steadily. Some counted their breaths in patterns, like monks they had once seen in temples. Inhale, exhale, count 1. Inhale, exhale, count 2. They called it walking through the numbers, a path that led them toward rest without ever reaching deep dreams. Others imagined walls around themselves, stone walls, bamboo fences, even invisible barriers. These were not real, of course, but picturing them gave a sense of security, a thin thread of comfort in hostile lands. And some simply accepted sleeplessness. They sat with their rifles in their laps, eyes half shut, drifting in and out of shallow naps that piled up like scraps of cloth into a rough blanket of rest. When sleep betrayed them. But sleep was not always kind. There were nights when exhaustion overcame even the strongest discipline. A man would slip into deep slumber, and in that moment, danger could creep close. Stories spread among the troops of entire outposts attacked at night because too many men had nodded off. These stories haunted them, warnings etched into their minds. One veteran told the younger recruits, "Sleep is a thief. It will steal your life if you do not chain it." So they learned to chain their sleep, short, shallow, cautious. The sky is a blanket. Not every night was terror. There were rare moments of calm, when the stars stretched bright above the islands or mountains. The soldiers would lie on their backs, staring upward, rifles still close, but their hearts eased a little. The vastness of the sky made them feel small, but also strangely protected, as if the universe itself was watching over them. Some whispered quiet prayers. Others simply counted constellations until their eyelids grew heavy. On such nights, even war seemed far away. Sleep came easier, though still light, like a door left half open. The lesson of cautious rest. As months turned into years, the soldiers became masters of a strange art, sleeping without surrender. They carried this habit home after the war. Many veterans confessed later that even in peacetime, in quiet villages or bustling cities, they would wake at the smallest sound. Some never again slept as deeply as before. It was the lasting mark of their youth in battle, the knowledge that sleep could be both friend and enemy. A bedtime reflection. So, what can we take from their story tonight as we prepare to sleep in safer places? Perhaps it is this: even in the harshest conditions, humans find ways to adapt. They invent little rituals, tricks of the mind, bonds of friendship, to carry them through nights that might otherwise break them. The Japanese soldiers of World War II did not have soft pillows or warm blankets. They had mud, mosquitoes, and fear, but they also had courage, discipline, and each other. And with those, they learned to rest just enough to face another day. And so, dear listener, as you close your eyes tonight, think of those soldiers who slept with one eye open. May your rest be gentler, your dreams safer, and your nights free from the burdens they once carried. For sleep is a gift, and in peaceful times, it is one we should treasure. So, what can we take from their story tonight as we prepare to sleep in safer places? Perhaps it is this: even in the harshest conditions, humans find ways to adapt. They invent little rituals, tricks of the mind, bonds of friendship, to carry them through nights that might otherwise break them. The Japanese soldiers of World War II did not have soft pillows or warm blankets. They had mud, mosquitoes, and fear. But they also had courage, discipline, and each other. And with those, they learned to rest just enough to face another day. If this story gave you something to think about, share it with someone who needs a reminder of how precious simple rest can be. And if you'd like more bedtime tales, stories of history, courage, and quiet wisdom, make sure to follow along for the next chapter. Good night, and sleep well.